welcome back to my channel. It's been a really long time since I've been on here. I actually had gotten really ill again. I'm still getting transfusions, and I actually went through a couple more near-death experiences, and I've learned a lot. And these two videos are going to be full disclosure of my original near-death experience video, because I actually rewatched it the other day and I thought there were two huge things missing from that video. And the first is something that I was simply too afraid to share at the time. I was afraid of being judged. And if you guys have watched any of my other videos, you know that I made a promise. I made a promise when I was up there and I was merged with that energy known as God, whatever you want to call that energy. I made a promise to live transparently. And I absolutely left off the last leg of my journey. In my original near-death experience video, I talk about Jesus and I flying through the green and the healing process. And I do mention that he asked me if I wanted to go anywhere next, and I said I did. And that's the part I intentionally left out. And again, it was due to fear of judgment. So I wanted to correct that on the record. I want to share that and another realization I had about that initial near-death experience before I go into the other experiences I've had this year. So, full disclosure, when Jesus had asked me, is there anywhere else you want to go? You guys know I was born clairvoyant, and I've been seeing energies and beings that exist beyond our three dimensions my entire life. So I didn't understand who or what these beings were when I was young. But I've been seeing angels and beings who don't live in our dimension, that you would call extraterrestrials, my entire life. And so one of my most long-time guides is actually a mantis being. And they are a race of non-sentient beings who are kind of like, they've taken on the role almost of galactic historians or archivists or anthropologists. And though their race is not sentient, I've always been with the same being, again, since I have memories. I was always with this same being, and I talk about this a lot too. I always say that the names don't matter. What really matters is that you can connect with the energy and that you can get a sense of the frequency. So, since I was like 3 years old, I've called this being table, because I was always on this table with this being, and we still have a beautiful relationship today. And obviously that being's name is not Table. I wouldn't even know how to say his name. It would almost just sound like noise. But when Jesus had asked me, well, where do you want to go? My immediate thought was, I wanted to go to my favorite ship. And on this ship, I knew Table was there somewhere, but I had actually wanted to meet another one of my guides who I've named Perry. And Perry is not normally in a corporeal body. But somehow I knew if I made this request, because this was such a fantastic journey, I knew that it would be arranged, and somehow I'd be able to meet Perry in particular in a more tangible way than I really have conscientiously done so in the past. And so I said, yeah, I want to go to that ship. That's my ship. I've been going there since I was a little girl. And again, I'm saying this and I know how it sounds. And for anyone who is listening to this and it sounds like a movie or too hard to believe, I completely understand that. It would seem that way to me too. And my parents would probably drop dead if they heard me saying this out loud, because if it's not been your experience, it just sounds so insane. But on the flip side, it's never not been my experience. And if you are someone like me, I'm especially speaking to you, because I want you to know you're not alone, and there are people out there who can help you deepen your awareness. And I now, for example, I live without fear of all this. And for so long, I lived with so much fear. I didn't understand anything. But so Jesus asked, where do you want to go? And right away, I said, I want to go to my ship. And I'll just explain to you guys so you can get an idea of what happened. Because it's pretty cool. It really is. I mean, it was amazing. But I was too embarrassed to say this for fear of what you may think of me. The cat's out of the bag. I'm weird, right? So this is really interesting, but I was in my astral body and I still was in this chariot of my Susan Dyer personality, which is why I think I can remember all of this so clearly. But after this green that we were flying through, we just immediately, he and I were up against the hull of this massive spaceship. And there was almost like a coat of arms next to this one whole door on the side that we were hovering next to. And he brought me up to it so I could take a look at it and look at the inscription. And I don't remember exactly what it looked like, but there were definitely both images and symbols. But I remember examining that coat of arms that basically described, the ship and its fleet and its origin. It was kind of like a call sheet, how you would go sailing and you would see your neighbor's boat was named such and such and it came from Siesta Key. It was like that, but a lot more detailed, I guess you could say. So I looked that over and I was like, yep, this is the one. And I was like, yep, I'm good. And I just remember, and I parted ways and immediately I was inside the ship. And in this way, you guys might know this, especially if you are heavily visual or if you've got a lot of Aquarian to you. We really kind of come through oftentimes where symbology and archetypes are most resonant. So if you're somebody who has dreams and they don't totally make logical sense, but they're heavily symbolic and they feel meaningful, do trust that, because they are. And so what I'll explain to you next, you'll have to understand it's symbolic. Just in the same way that when I merged with that energy known as God or Source, it appeared as golden rays of light. that was a co-creation. It was something that comforted and made sense to me. And in that same way, that's how this rest of the journey went. And so I was immediately in this massive ship, and it appeared to be like a NASA gift store from the 50s. That's the best way I can describe it. And I was looking on the shelves and looking at the tchotchkes and the key rings, but all the whole time I was just waiting. I was just waiting. And I knew that was Perry. And it was actually quite similar to that movie with Jodie Foster, Contact, where when she lands on that beach, it looks like the drawing she drew as a child of Sarasota. And the being who comes to speak to her looks like her father. And that's all, again, to ensure her comfort, so she can receive the communication. And so in that very same way, I was waiting for the gift shop owner to wrap up his conversation with another person in the store, or another being. I forget if they were human or not. But he looked like my version of an every dad. So when I think of my dad, I think of a white man, middle-aged. I used to call his stomach my pillow. He had a little bit of a stomach, and he would always like wearing flannel shirts on the weekend, and kind of his like dorky Wrangler jeans. And so I was just waiting and, trying to be polite. I just could not wait to be able to greet one of my most beloved guides in this very tangible way. Typically with this guide Perry, and I don't even know, still at 43, I don't know what dimension he comes from or very much about him, except we have our own symbols we share together. And I know he typically presents to me like angels do, in a particular pattern of concentric, like rich colors. And I know what Perry's colors are. And I know what our primary symbol is to each other, which is a hand. Whenever my sons would come back and one of their drawings would include like a handprint, or I remember at one point, my boyfriend was falling asleep, and I was meditating with Perry at the time, and just out of nowhere, my half asleep boyfriend just put his hand on my face, just like that. I know that we have our symbols together, and for you guys, with your guides, you're totally no exception. If you take the time to watch for your patterns, you will see or hear or sense whatever your most comfortable awareness is. You will see your patterns, and you will begin to put them together. But once this every dad finished that conversation, it was all I could do not to just run up to him and just jump on him and hug him. But I felt like I needed to be polite and courteous. I don't know why, Again, this is so heavily symbolic, but he came right up to me and just gave me the warmest smile, and we hugged. And I had that sensation of getting to hug this guide of mine that I know doesn't look like that. And I honestly don't even know if Perry ever really takes form. I've always kind of thought that, his natural state is a light body. But I had this experience, this beautiful night where I was able to co-create some of my dreams come true, I guess you could say. And so we hugged, and the conversation was simple and symbolic, and he basically spoke about the possibility of me working part-time at the gift shop. And I was so elated. I was like, I would love to. Yes, I would love to. Yes, of course. And just being in his presence, and knowing that was Perry, and knowing that was my ship that I have been to countless times, and still travel to actually do emotional work. You know, I have more adult recollection of the astral work I do there. But again, it almost made me just feel like a child again, just that happy to be. It's like for the first time I got to hug my teddy bear, you know. My mantis guide table had always been in form, but I'd never had that experience before, to be able to hug this guide of mine who I call Perry. And it was such just a beautiful experience. And that was the honest last leg of my journey. That's where I asked to go when Jesus had said, is there anywhere else you want to go? And I left it off at the other video. I said, yes, and we went somewhere, and then I woke up and ... and I thought that is exactly the opposite of living transparently, which is what I had promised to do just moments before. So this is one of two videos that I wanted to do to close out that first experience. And next video I'll share the second realization I had about that original near-death experience. So thank you guys. I love you guys. And if you like this, please do subscribe. It means so much to us. And it just takes a second. Thanks so much, and I'll talk to you soon.